Welcome to the Conscious Diabetic Podcast.
Hello, Brett.
Hello. Yeah,
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. Thank you. We're on. This is my first dual podcast. It appears. The Conscious Diabetic and the Alternative Movement podcast, isn't it?
That's it, man. That's it.
Alternative Movement / Conscious Diabetic Podcast. Now,
so we've teamed up on this one because we both do a podcast. We both reached out to one another, so we thought we'd just kill two birds with one stone and basically combine the podcast.
And that came from me being an adaptive athlete in training in CrossFit, and then I saw one of Craig's posts with adaptive athlete training in Essex in the box that he works with, and something resonated there with me, and I was just like, bang. Let's have a message. Let's have a conversation. I want to find out more about the specifics of adaptive athlete training within the CrossFit circle. So yeah, that's why I reached out, and then we decided to do this together and talk all things. Well, for me, diabetes, CrossFit, adaptive athlete training, and anything else that we really want to talk about.
Yeah, I think it all just sums it up. Adaptive training, doesn't it? Every sort of aspect of disabilities, impairments, etc. So I think we can cover some topics today, shall we?
Yeah. So
cool.
I think I'm gonna go back on you now and say, where did you start from? Give us your backstory.
Oh wow!
And tell us how you got into. How did you get to the adaptive athlete training scenario?
Well, yeah. So for me, I've I think I'll say I'm able-bodied, so I've not got any disabilities or anything like that. And to be honest, I sort of fell into it. I've been a trainer for over 10 plus years now, a PT. I've worked in sort of commercial gyms, getting people ready for their summer bodies, getting people ready for going on holiday, weddings, etc. And, I've done that for a while. It was great. I love what I do. I still train able-bodied people, and obviously predominantly now I work with people with disabilities. But yeah, for me, I just found it wasn't fulfilling enough. And don't get me wrong, I still enjoy doing it, but it just didn't. I didn't feel like I was making enough of an impact. And then, so I've shared this story before. I've shared it in some of my articles as well. But I was given the opportunity to run a class for people with autism. So it was just like a fitness class. It was actually in Chelmsford at the college, just like about 40 minutes away from myself. So someone said to me, we've set up this class. Would you be interested in running it? Now, I've always been someone that will take something on, even if I'm a little bit unsure. I like a challenge. But at the same time, I was absolutely bricking it. So I turned up to the college. I walked into the gym. I said, obviously, what I'm doing, I'm here to do this. And then I went into the room. And then all of a sudden, there was probably about between 10 and 15 young lads come in, and all with varying levels of autism. A couple of lads there with Down syndrome as well. And at that point, I thought, crap.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm prepared for this, because anyone that's run a class before, whether that's circuit, boot camp, all that, it's pretty simple. You do your warm up, everyone listens, you crack on. Most people know most of the movements, unless you've got a couple of newcomers. But for this, it was a lot more challenging. Like, it weren't the case that I was addressing the class as a whole, even though I was, but it was you're addressing each individual athlete by themselves because of their varying levels of disability. And I just remember coming away from that day, like, I delivered the session, got stuck in. I remember coming away from that day, sat in my car, and I just thought, wow, that was interesting. It was hard, it was challenging, but I think this is what I want to do. I want to work with these guys more. So I carried on with the club for a while, and then what was it? And then I sort of it was a program, so it's like a 12-week program anyway. The 12-week program finished, and it was discontinued, unfortunately, but. And then for me, I sort of I carried on back with my standard training, going back to working in normal gyms and stuff. And then I was approached by a woman who had a young lad with cerebral palsy. So it's a boy who's 16 at the time, and she was like, "I've tried to find loads of trainers. No one's really interested in working with him." So I said, "Let's have a chat." So I popped down to meet him. Great kid. I said, "You know what? Let's try once a week. Let's see how we get on." And then it literally just snowballed from there. You know how it is, word of mouth. People start talking, saying, "Oh, he's been training my son. He's been doing really well. Can you train my son?" So from that, it just sort of snowballed, and I started picking up more and more clients with different disabilities. So predominantly, I work with young teenagers, young adults with autism, cerebral palsy. Then someone with spina bifida come and contacted me. So a young lad with spina bifida, I took him on. Then people that had strokes started contacting me. A lot of neurological conditions, and literally from there, it just sparked my passion. I went away and learned as much as I could, and this is where I am. So off the backs of doing this, I felt like I needed to expand a little bit more, and there was only so much I could do as a person. So I felt like I needed to create something that was more so than what I could do, if that makes sense. So I was having a conversation with one of my clients one day, a young lad with cerebral palsy, was just talking about like what clubs and facilities and stuff that he's ever been to before. And I was quite shocked to find out there wasn't really anything out there in regards to sort of like sport. There was sort of like sports clubs, but it was very much, I don't know how to word it without being sort of horrible, but it was
almost... I doubt the intent is horrible, being horrible when you're trying to highlight. I think you mean, I'm going to jump in and say,
absolutely,
the ones that are focused on in, say, the adaptive Olympics, like there's all sorts of conditions and whatever else. I'm sure, like that grouping, shall we say, just like
So what I found was a lot of the conditions or disabilities was all lumped into one category. In regards to sort of like, you'd have like a group of like kids with CP and then autism, which you'll know yourself if you've worked with anyone like that. It's a very, very different way that you would approach these sessions. So I went, I'll tell you what, give me a couple of days. I'm going to go away. I'm going to try and find some clubs, and I'll put you in contact so that you can go and potentially join these clubs, and start building a bit of a community. So I started looking in local councils and local sporting facilities and stuff, and there was nothing out there. There was nothing at all. It was like a swimming club, and then like almost like an activity club, like doing very, very simple games. And I thought, no, this is not cool. I think there needs to be a cooler edge to it. And obviously there's the up and coming sort of stuff within adaptive CrossFit. So off the backs of this conversation, alternative movement was created. So it was just like, there needs to be something out there. What alternative exercise is there? Alternative movement. The name came about, and then I thought, you know what? That day I created an Instagram page. I've never been one to. I was never one to sit down and record myself talking. I was always a bit worried about that. I felt a bit of a div, but that day I just felt so passionately about it. I set my tripod up, sat in front of it, and I said, right, my name's Craig. I'm doing this. I want to create something cool in the area. I want to start bringing people together, create a community, and just, create a really fun, friendly place to train. And the response I got from it was amazing. I had so many people reach out to me and say, "Oh, this is so cool what you're doing. How can I get involved? Can we have a conversation?" Like yourself reaching out to me. And that's also how the podcast was sort of born as well. Like, people wanted to talk to me about it. So I thought, screw it, I'm going to start a podcast. Go on, sorry.
It makes it worthwhile. You starting something, and then it's good when people start reaching out to you.
Yeah, exactly.
From nothing. Like I said, again, it just rings true for me because I'm an adaptive athlete. I've been I don't see it as a disability for me, or I don't see it. It's just not within my mind remit as a disability. It's just shit that's happened to me, and it's if anything, it's made me stronger.
Absolutely,
more adaptable to anything really. So you started that. You started the page. You did that. So on my side, for your listeners, that I say, I've been type 1 diabetic for 37 years of my near 42 years of life. I have broken my spine. I've evaded death plenty of times through my diabetes. But I had 10 eye operations called vitrectomies. I lost my right eye just after my wedding in 2013. I had 5 operations then. And then basically they didn't work. Then my left eye went, and then I had 5 operations in that one. And then I ended up with maybe about 10% of tunnel vision in my left eye. And that's my adaptive conditioning, as well as being type 1 diabetic for 37 years, going through all the things under the roof: depression, anxiety, suicide stuff, from losing my eyes, and alcohol addiction, drug addiction, just literally everything under the sun as a coping mechanism to life, shall we say, as an escape. And the one thing that changed pretty much everything for me was CrossFit. That somehow, like, I did go to the gym, but the gym wasn't challenging enough. And then I found CrossFit 3 years ago. That seemed to something clicked. The trainers, the course, the coaches, the environment, the atmosphere, the whole thing of being the better person every day. That is the new addiction for me. And then 3 years on now, I've just done the CrossFit Games 2022 Adaptive Men's Vision Division, and then I qualified for the semi-finals/finals in position 19. So for me, that shows how transformational CrossFit can be in changing one's mindset and making you feel of value, I think. And I think that's what your training does to these individuals, that there's no one, I say disability, it's a funny word when you say, oh, you're disabled and you this, I don't think they feel that. But it gives them, I'm sure it's like, I only speak from experience in that it gives you absolute value in yourself when you it
puts you on an even playing field, I think.
Yeah,
it puts you on an even playing field. It's that community aspect of CrossFit, I think, as well. From what I've seen, because we done the Open at the gym I work at.
Yeah,
and my adaptive athletes competed alongside able-bodied athletes, and it was amazing to see that contrast, because it wasn't just like, you know yourself, you go into a CrossFit gym, and I think a lot of people's idea of CrossFitters is like these absolute elite machines, and it's not always the case. Like, yes,
no.
They have that mindset, but you get your beginners, because there's so many different categories within CrossFit. Your foundation, your scaled, your RX, and then obviously you go into the adaptive category. Within different categories, you got your teens. There's just so much to offer that everyone is still working at the same level, but just at their own level, if that makes sense. And I think
a bit more advanced. That's it. You've got to start. You've got to start somewhere. You've got to put that one foot down and walk that path. And it's the best path to walk, in my experience, than any other that I've had before.
So what was it like when you first stepped into a CrossFit gym? Because obviously you said you've trained before.
I've trained before. I went through cycles of going to the gym and be like, yeah, this, and just be like, yeah, and this is going to bug people at gyms. You think you're fit. You think you're fit until you go to a CrossFit gym and you do some of the basic workouts. And then you really know what levels of fitness can go to and what you can do with, like I say, with compound movements and focusing on, like I say, short, medium, long-term cardio strength as well. And all these different movement patterns, which you just don't get in the gym. That's what really, like, for me, it was scary, but I'm an open book to experiencing everything. And I just went in there. I was like, I did the one. I knew it was the right thing for me. Whatever I did, I can't remember. It was 3 years ago, and it was through a friend. And it was through a friend and my wife. And it was the transformation of him that I saw. I was like, sorry, I was going to swear then, but I was like, I was like, fuck. That is some transformation. And then it's not even about the body. See, and this is only from doing CrossFit, is put the mind there first and the body will follow. In my experience. And like, again, it's not even about the looks, or it's not even about, like, I don't care what I look like. I don't care as long as I get to CrossFit, do something. And even if I don't go to CrossFit, I do a CrossFit style workout at home. And that is ingrained into me every day, to do something, to movement, to do movement, to do compound movement patterns, to do various things. Like, let's say, resistance bands are probably one of my favorite things. Deadlift, one of my favorite things. Doing all these things that generally I never did at the gym. It was just isolation movements. So you sit on a machine, you do that. You'd think you'd work out, you'd think you'd do stuff, but yeah, it's nothing compared to CrossFit. And I think that the ego goes when you go to CrossFit. You learn to like really respect and listen, because you know nothing. You think you know stuff, but you don't know anything when you step into a CrossFit gym. And then you just observe, listen, and learn. And that's a part of the experience of CrossFit. Is like every day is a school day. Every day is a school day. And I get obsessive about things. It's just my nature. And
I do love that. I do love that transformation you see, because when I'm running like the CrossFit classes in there, when you have a newcomer in, especially someone that's trained before, you do have that little bit of ego still left within them. It's there. And it's awesome to see over the weeks, because at first they're like, right, I've trained before, I know what I'm doing, I can do this. And then all of a sudden, after the first session, as you said, it's like, wow, okay, that's a real big check. I've checked my ego. Next week, you might still get a little bit of that, but you just slowly see that ego break down. And that person really start to transform in themselves, not just in their body, but in their mindset as well, and how they listen to you as a coach.
It's the mind. It's getting control of the mind. Like that ego, the ego is a pain in the ass. And once that gets checked, then that's a thing. And focusing on like the gyms, or say again, I go from my experiences of going to the gym. I never really touched a pull-up or like engaged within like the back muscles properly or doing anything like that. I'm now, just this morning, just before this, actually, I did my training session. I wrote on I've got a whiteboard now. I've got a marker on my balcony. So I wrote a marker out my stuff. I'll take a photo. But then I write like 50 pull-ups. At no point I would have ever explored 50 pull-ups, but I do 50 pull-ups broken down into 5 pull-ups in 10 segments and like 30-second breaks. But if there's a number on the board, I've got to do the number on the board. And there's that thing in CrossFit mentality is you do those numbers, you do it, and you do it. There's no quitting, there's no stopping, there's no nothing. And up until either the timer goes down or you reach your timing point or the numbers, that's what's been drilled into me in my head now from being at CrossFit. It's just, and that's now the attitude I take with work, with everything. It provides structure.
Yeah,
discipline.
I was going to say that as well. It's just not just about in the gym that CrossFit does. It spills over into the rest of your life, and that's not just in work, but your family life. You know, like even down to your pets. Like you get structure in taking your dogs out and all these bits and pieces. And I just feel like it's got tremendous value. And I think I didn't really see that until I done my CrossFit course. Like I was sold in CrossFit. Don't get me wrong, but when I done my CF level 1. That was it. I was 100% in. Once I really understood why it was created and how it was created and the reason behind movement, the reason behind how they structure the workouts, the sets, the reps, etc. Like it just made sense. It was like, wow, okay, this is it. This is a safe way to train. This is an efficient way to train. Yeah. And it's not just that. It's the, as I said, like I go back to the community as well. The community aspect, just everything about it's got real value to it.
And how was that level 1 training course? Because I'm just studying the manual. I'm going to do my level 1.
Okay. Yeah, it's really good, man. It's really good. Like as I say, I can only speak from my experience and the coaches I had on my course teaching it. But it was, I felt like I was just in awe the whole time. Just like they taught fundamental movements. They taught the squat, whether that's the front squat, the overhead squat, air squat. And it's a pretty, you think that's a pretty basic movement. Like, okay, I've got that now. But like the way they explained it and the way they was talking about it and how to coach it, and it was like, oh wow, yeah, back to basics, love it. What else did we go through? Yeah, so on your first day, you sort of spend a lot of time learning about what CrossFit is, how it was created by obviously Greg Glassman. Then obviously you go through the movements, then you go through some more theory. And then at the end of the day, you do a WOD. And it was quite interesting to see, because there was a couple of people on my course that was just sort of very new to CrossFit. And there was actually one lad that's never done CrossFit before. So I was quite confused as to why he'd signed up for the course. But, fair play to him. He absolutely smashed it and gave it a good go. It's an interesting course. It's hard to put into words, like in a small sentence, but it definitely had tremendous value for me as a coach. I've been an experienced coach for a number of years now. I've been teaching strength and conditioning, so very, very similar sort of principles to CrossFit. So I've been exposed to it for a long time, but just doing that course alone and just understanding what CrossFit is, and not just about the exercise prescription, but also the nutrition aspect of it. It's just simplifying it, really. Simplifying it, giving it structure. And that structure, as you've seen yourself, can be replicated throughout CrossFit gyms and other boxes across the world. Now, obviously in America, CrossFit's really, really growing. The UK is a little bit behind, which we a lot of times are. I don't know how it is. I don't know how it is where you are at the moment, because obviously
CrossFit's again. There's one CrossFit place in Ibiza. There's a sort of a couple of functional movement places, but I'm a CrossFit till I die type of person. At Isla Blanca with my coach Nico. And there's another one opening just on the other side, but in Spain it's quite popular. You'll see, I think there was a couple in the adaptive division, even the division impaired. There was a Spanish person, I think second. There was a few Brits. We were flying the flag for the Brits. There was about 5 Brits in the vision impaired that finished in the top 20, I think. So it's you can see that there's massive benefit there in vision impairment. Even, let's say, just communicating to the people that this is the better movement pattern or way to train. Because I speak with people and they're like, oh, I heard it, you get injured, or I heard you do this, or like, say my shoulders are screwed, or it's screwed. I'm like, well, you're either doing something wrong, or you're going in it way too much too early and trying to do too much too early, like people do at the gym. Right, I'm going to go and lift 120 kilos, or I'm going to go do this, without putting that, like say, those foundations there in place before you even work up. Again, I've been victim to that. It's the ego again.
So you have injured yourself in the gym?
Well, in the gym I injured myself. Even training, I had a personal trainer. I injured myself there because I was doing personally too much training in the day. But now, and I tore some sort of muscle in my ribs.
So was you secret training behind your trainer's back as well?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of an obsessive, but I was doing too much without control.
Okay.
So now my daily is like it depends, 2 hours a day of training, and so I'll go to CrossFit. But if I'm at home and train, I train in a tanky weight vest as well. So I'll do the pull-ups in the weight vest. I'll do everything with a weight vest on, because I'm just doing that little bit extra. It's that sort of CrossFit Games mentality for me. It's for me to do extra, to condition my body more, to do more when I've not got a weight vest on. And for me it worked. I do a like 5-10k run with the weight vest on as well. So yeah, it's just, let's say, for me it's slightly obsessive.
So how did you find? In a healthy way. Well, there's worse things to be addicted to.
There's worse things to have. And I've only seen benefits from doing CrossFit with my diabetes as well. That is the one thing, is there are notable improvements into diabetes care, and results from blood sugars to appetite control, to what you eat as well. And I'm a big proponent of good eating. And it's this is I spoke with the guy who did a method called Mastering Diabetes, and that was Cyrus Kambata, and he was a guest on my Conscious Diabetic podcast. But it's about the whole foods. It's the same thing with CrossFit as well. The foods on the outside aisles of the supermarket, the greens, the whole foods, nothing with sugar, nothing processed. Obviously with CrossFit it's meat and other things, but I don't eat meat. But healthy whole foods is the one for diabetics as well.
So how did you find that your first experience within a CrossFit gym, especially being an adaptive athlete? So how did you find the coaches were with you? Was they quite willing to work with you straight away, or did they want to know a little bit more?
No, they wanted that. There's a whole, with the diabetes, there's a whole process that I had to go through. I think I was the only diabetic there. I was the only adaptive athlete there. So, and I'm strong-headed is not the one. Stubborn is the other. I'm independent and stubborn, and that's grown out of necessity. So we were working together to educate each other of how to do things, and it worked and grew. So for me, again, within CrossFit, I was using it also to find where my problems were, because when I broke my spine, T3 and 4 it was, that caused a massive problem with my thoracic front area and breathing, and also it screwed up my shoulder and my left shoulder mobility. I snapped my leg in two a few years ago.
Was that at the same time as you broke your spine?
No, that was my spine was 20 years ago. Okay. But I didn't do anything about it really after that. CrossFit didn't really exist in my world, and it was just exercise, but I just left it, and then progressively things got worse, because your body adapts in these really weird ways to be as efficient as possible, but that screws up all sorts of things. And up until the moment where you try and establish good, functional, efficient movement patterns, you don't even know where you're at. So I'd screwed up a load of things, especially my lower back was really strong, but my back was sort of super curved. My shoulders didn't extend properly. My blades didn't go back. Snapping my leg in two. I've got a metal rod, ankle pins and knee pins, but my hip was out of alignment as well. And I didn't know this until I went to a chiropractor about 2 months ago. And the chiropractor, again, not wishy-washy, chiropractor fixed. My neck was extended like inches out as well. So it was making your head weighs about 6.5 kilos, 6 kilos apparently. But my neck extension was like that. It should be like that. So it was making my head weigh about 20 kilos to my brain. Then because it's not positioned right, so it should be up straight. So we sorted all that out. My spine, when he cracked and did all my spine as well, it was probably one of the most amazing things in the world, because all the communication from the T3, 4 and downwards was not working right, because it was completely out of alignment. So that really worked. He's a good chiropractor though, but yeah, that really was one of the main things that fixed a lot of problems with sort of energy transfer, shall we say, and communication, as well as CrossFit. So yeah, that first that first experience of CrossFit, it wasn't scary. Fear is a funny thing. It wasn't fearful. It wasn't scary. It was just like, this is the one. It is amazing to be coached. To be coached is a good thing as well, or to be supervised, because you don't know. Even people that go to the gym, they do it wrong generally, unless you've got someone coaching you. It's the same with business. It's the same with football or anything. Like, it's good to have a coach or someone supervising you and giving you guidance, instead of you just being in your own head saying, I'm doing it right, when you're not. Generally,
no, it's important, man. Even me as a coach, I'll go to other coaches. I'll go to classes. Like, I think it's super important to be not called out, but like, to make sure you're doing things right and make sure you're doing it as efficiently as possible. And you can't see them sort of them small nuances within your own technique. No, especially in a CrossFit gym. How many mirrors are in a CrossFit gym?
Yeah, I've seen none.
To be fair, we do have a mirror in our gym. Simply because the guy that owns the building, he had a massive gold painted side mirror, and we've got a bit of an industrial look going on. So we thought, it looks quite cool. So we put a mirror in our one. So, but even then, like, you can't really check your technique very well. Like, if you're trying to snatch, you can't turn your head to the side and go, "Oh, am I doing that right?"
Hence why you record it. It's one of, and that's accountability as well, which is again a thing for CrossFit, isn't it? It's being accountable for your actions and record it, learn, show your progression. That's the things with like I log. God, my whole life is logged anyway due to diabetes, but especially with CrossFit, logging your progression with anything, and it shows that you've achieved things or you've progressed and you've done. Let's say I remember when I started deadlift. Deadlift was about struggling 50 key deadlift, and that was a struggle. And then I think just before it was maybe September last year, I did a 160 key deadlift, and then I was hoping to do 200 at some point, but I had to pause because it was just one of those things. But yeah,
well, I mean, you did break your back, so
yeah, and
I wouldn't blame you being a little bit tentative with that one.
Yeah, it's you set these goals. You that's the thing with the coaching as well. You set a goal and then you progress to that goal. Like I say, again, for me, I struggle with pull-ups, but and especially kipping and doing stuff. I did my first chest to bar on the CrossFit on the 22.3.
22.3, yeah.
Yeah, 22.3. I did my only chest to bar, my first chest to bar on that. But that was an achievement. I'd never done it, and I did it in 22.3. So it shows that progression is there. It shows that you are actually getting better. You are doing more. So again, the beauty of CrossFit and the beauty of having a coach or someone to supervise you.
So what? So going back to sort of like the vision side of things. So how much vision do you actually have? Like, what's your like your depth like?
Yeah. So like I say, I lost my right eye. So I lost. I get at the same time as I was in recovery with my operations on my right eye, I lost my left eye. So at a time I was like blind as well. But within that time when I was in recovery, I wasn't allowed to move, go anywhere, do anything. I had to put I had to be face down for 18 hours a day for about 3 weeks. Because I had gas. I had gas in my eyes, in the eyeball to hold things together. So first it's air. That didn't work because I had a load of hemorrhages, bleeds. Then I had gas in there. That didn't work. Then they take all the what's known as vitreous humor, which is the inside of your eye, the squishy stuff, and they replace that with silicone to then hold the eye in its shape as well. So then I had silicone in both my eyes to hold my eyes like together. I had plastic lenses put in as well. Before that, I had all my retinas mapped with laser. So I had about 150 sessions of laser treatment on my retinas to save that. Then the worst one was a hemorrhage in my eye, when it just the eye bleeds out, but it can't go anywhere. So then your eye pressure goes up, and it was off the chart. But for me, the hemorrhage was pushing on my optic nerve, which then goes directly into the brain, and that makes you like throw up constantly. And I can honestly say it is the worst pain. The diet is like having a needle. It was like having a needle directed through my eyeball into my brain constantly for about 5 hours. And they couldn't give me painkillers because they called emergency surgery. So I'm there throwing up. Like, worst experience of my life. Worst experience of my life. Wow. But yeah, that was my right eye. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So I do think there was a positive in that. So yeah, then it ended up basically I lost my right eye. My left eye, same, all the same things. And luckily the central part of the retina is not bad. So I literally see like straight ahead tunnel. I've got astigmatism as well, so the eyes are sort of warped and weird shaped. And then I lost all my peripheral vision as well. Like say, if I've got tunnel vision, I've lost my peripheral. And then my nighttime vision is completely shot as well because of the laser treatment. So basically the rods which react to light don't really react to light. So when you go into a light room to a dark room, your eyes adjust pretty like pretty instantaneously. So
Mm-hmm.
the rod for me, the rods that like they're like little muscles that well, they do sort of a flexion thing. They just don't do that. So it takes about maybe 5-10 minutes for things to adjust, and then I get loads of glare, and yeah, it's one of those things that you have to learn to cope with.
So how do you find that with like training? Is there any particular like things you can't do, maybe due to balance? Because obviously, for me as a disability coach as well, like obviously an adaptive coach, I try to explore different things. So, like for example, I might practice what it's like to do a burpee with one arm, tie one arm behind the back, and if you ever tried that, it's ridiculously hard. Also, I would try and do movements with my eyes closed, perhaps just to see how it would relate to someone that had that was visually impaired. So for yourself, from your standpoint, is there any particular movements you've struggled with or you find that cause issues with balance and you're a little bit more cautious with?
No, the way that I approach things is I like to live outside my comfort zone. So I like to train all the weird stuff. So balance, I've got not a foam roller, but it's a hard plastic one. So I was standing on it, trying to balance on it to see what my balance was. And then I was working with a neuro, her name's Layla, and she was sort of a pain neuro specialist as well, but she did pain treatment and functional sort of muscular treatments and massage. But she was teaching me about self-awareness as well. But I always train a lot of time with my eyes closed as well.
Okay.
And it's a weird thing to say, but it trains the mind as well. So you know what your balance is, or if I like to explore what it's like to balance on one foot for 30 seconds. Can I do that? Can I balance on the other foot for 30 seconds or 60 seconds? Or it's kind of like a kettlebell over my head on one foot, trying to do a little squat. I was like, okay, so let's explore that. Then I'll just explore loads of weird things. Like again, shortly after I lost my sight, I did a 10-kilometer trail run, a coastal trail run, which was awful, but it was a competitive one as well. But I did it, and it way took me out of my comfort zone. And it was dangerous because it was on the edge of frigging rock. Like it was crazy. But I took myself out of that comfort zone of just sticking to flat roads, and I did stuff, and I did it. And then it's like, okay, you can do this stuff. The moment you can prove to yourself that you can do it, then it just gets a lot easier. Like the weights is easy. I find sometimes struggle with jumping up for doing pull-ups and stuff, because sometimes I miss the bar. I have no depth perception. So that's the one thing with having limited sight is no depth perception. So I'll fall over the weirdest stuff. I can't pour a cup of tea still, or I have to put my finger in there and pour hot water, or it's really it's the small stuff. Like I say, I sit on a computer. I was a film guy and video editor, and do design work as well still. But yeah, that part of life had to stop as well. Sort of doing so much filming. So yeah, I don't isolate any movement patterns. If I see that I can't do something, obviously I attack it. I don't shy away from it. That's the one thing. Even like box jumps do my head in, but you've just got to get over that obstacle and do those box jumps or do the box step ups. Again, it was 22.1, wasn't it? Was it and that was it wall walks or the box step?
Wall walk snatches and box jump overs.
So again, that was my best one as well. I came eighth. I came eighth in that.
I absolutely flopped on that one. To be fair, I weigh just shy of 18 stones, and then wall walks was not fun at all.
Okay, yeah. So it's for me, it was a strength, and training those strengths for, like say, the step up box step up. So I was surprised that I got so high, and then the next two events I got a bit lower. But yeah, it's you train those weaknesses, and it surprises you when you do things in that competitive environment. Really, with CrossFit.
I think that's a really cool aspect of it as well. I think that's it does expose you to your weaknesses as well. Like for me, I'm coming away, I'm doing wall walks, I'm doing handstands, bar muscle ups is one thing. Being a heavier guy, it's a little bit tricky for me to especially get that a volume of pull-ups, chest to bar, then all of a sudden into muscle ups. So these are some of the weaknesses I've highlighted, and now I've got to come away. And it's as you said, we turn back to the ego. It's just got ego check, right? Okay, I'm weak at that. Right, let's get better at that. Because we favor our own training. And if you go into like a commercial gym, I've done it. I've been guilty of it. You know, most of us when we start out, you know, we've probably gone onto bodybuilding.com, found like Arnold's Blueprint or one of these sort of workouts.
That's exactly what I did.
And we've gone in the gym. And obviously, being a guy, we probably want to train our chest. We want shoulders. We want arms. We ignore our back. We ignore our legs. We can't see them. They're covered up. And we develop them imbalances. But I think that's the beauty of when you go into a CrossFit gym or you do a CrossFit workout. It's like, shit, pull-ups, can't do them. Yeah, everyone else can. I need to get better at them. And then you start to train your weaknesses as opposed to the things you're strong at.
I think when CrossFit makes you, without sounding like cliche or cheesy, it makes you the best athletic version of yourself over time, or that optimum version. Like I say, you might go to the gym and say, I want to be a bodybuilder. And again, this is great for bodybuilders. I'm not offending you or not. You do what you want to do.
No, listen, I love functional bodybuilding, man. Like it's generally Sundays is my functional bodybuilding day. I get up at 4 a.m. I go to the gym. I do 2-hour session and it's functional bodybuilding. You know, a bit more heart ratey than your standard bodybuilding session, but it has its place. It has its place 100%.
Yeah. And that's not for me. For me, it was in my head, it's to be optimum cardio strength, functional as much as possible. And I'd say the more I train, the more I realize I don't actually need to be big, because it's also not good for your heart as well. And things like, again, I do other studies in sort of breathing patterns and meditations as well. And it's to lessen the load on your heart with things like weight and the correct breathing. It also gives you that optimum way of carrying on with life as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, what sort of other stuff? Trying to think. Obviously, you've injured your leg.
Yeah, it's not
you've injured your back.
Yeah, injured my back. That's
any other injuries?
No, they're the only two. I had another. Yeah, my heart stopped a few months ago. Near enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
What caused that?
Low blood sugar.
Oh, okay.
It was sort of it was a weird event. It wasn't a heart attack. It was just literally no sugar. I'd had a bad day. It was hot here. I'd had stress, and then all of a sudden, I didn't realize, and my heart just felt like literally the battery being pulled out. Collapsed. Oh, wow. Collapsed near my neighbor. Then I wake up and they've got the pads out, ready to go. But luckily I came back because the ambulance staff had put IVs in me, and then I just like into life. Wife were there. That was another weird moment in the story. Jeez. Yeah. So, but again, I attribute that. I attribute the strength of coming back from that to CrossFit and training, and I don't know, willpower, whatever you may call it. It was a very weird experience.
So they didn't actually have to restart your heart. They didn't have to.
No. They. I remember. Yeah, they had the pads out. The police were there as well. There's police ambulance stuff and everything. But they were just about to do it, and I came back. Yeah, that wouldn't have been fun. But and again, it checks the ego. It's like, life is very precious, and it taught me more about my diabetes again, and being self-aware of taking care of oneself. And again, for me, that just shot the fitness thing, the CrossFit thing, the conscious diabetic thing that I do, and to talk. And again, I've not talked so much for the past few weeks, but that's because I've been training I was doing the open stuff. But just focus health, lifestyle, fitness, and to try and be as strong as possible, because you have no idea what's around the corner. And let's say what's the CrossFit saying? The unknown and unknowable. Be prepared, or be prepared for the unknown and unknowable. I think it was.
Yeah, any eventuality.
Yeah,
be harder to kill.
Yeah, that's it. So I think, and again, I'll attribute me surviving that episode down to just being as strong as possible. So
how long have you been doing your podcast for?
Podcast started last year, and
okay,
it started. When did it start? Yeah, last May, I think, May or June. So with my podcast, I interview experts or leading athletes who are diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I've had some crazy people on, which a guy, type 1 diabetic, that ran from Disneyland on the East Coast to Disneyland on the West Coast. I've had loads of another guy, ultra marathon runners, Ironman competitors, published authors as well. The guy who wrote Mastering Diabetes. I've written a book as well, which I'm just finishing off. Again, that was to do with my transformation. I did a 100-day challenge where I lost about 14 kilos. I lost half my body fat from 20%, just over 20% to 9.9% body fat. And I did that in 100 days. I wrote a diary. And then I've gone through my life of diabetes as well and recalled a lot of experiences growing up. So I say growing up in the 80s, 90s, noughties, 10s, going through work, school, high school, college, and then loads of other sort of weird environments. A recap experiences of having diabetes, and include those because I think those were quite significant to help other people as well. That's the one thing, and to show that taking control of diabetes is easier than you think, because I think a lot of people get caught up in the numbers, because you have a thing called a HbA1c, which is your average blood glucose over a period of time. Now, this denotes your control, your general day-to-day control, and everyone's aiming for the lowest number possible. But I think when people go in on such a small lens of a number, they're missing out. I see it in the community on Facebook and other things. They're missing out they're missing out on the periphery, being, okay, you're not taking care of your fitness. You're eating some of the wrong foods. You're not doing certain things because you're focusing on this one number. But this one number isn't going to save your life if you don't have any cardiovascular output, or you don't have any strength output, or you don't have certain things. So I'm hoping with my book, it tries to widen that scope or lens of to get out of that one number focus. And then I'm speaking with a guest next week. He's a doctor in the UK, or is a PhD or in the UK, and he's developed all the exercise programs, or the main methodology of exercise treatment for diabetics, and it's this treatment sort of protocol is used around the world. So I'm looking forward to speaking to him as well. So I try and speak with experts, coaches, athletes, people who've really excelled to distill that information for the people lower down in their journey or earlier in their journey, to show that, like I say, anything's possible. It's just it's discipline. It's that step out into the unknown and the discipline that's required. It's not easy. It's taken me 3 years to sort my shit out. And that was because I was coming up to my 40th. I was like, fuck, if I don't change, then it's going to go downhill from here.
Have you found, like, speaking to other diabetics as well, have you found, because from our personal view, when I've worked with someone with diabetes, or I've had a conversation, there's like a very self-destructive edge to it. if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yourself.
like I could completely get the frustration. You've got to constantly manage your blood glucose levels. You've got to constantly be injecting yourself all the time.
Yeah.
And I could imagine that gets very frustrating.
It can do. And it depends on where in your journey you are, I
Mm.
believe. Let's say I was 5 years old. So I've grown up. I've not known any different in life. And one part of my discussion at some point in the future will be the psychological impact of diabetes to a child and then growing up through life. It's something which interests me, and it's something which obviously has affected me. And that came out in alcohol and drugs and whatever else. And seeking something which to fill a void. And sometimes you don't know what that void is, especially at 5 years old. Your brain protects you and does all sorts of crazy things. And then if you don't talk about it, if you don't have therapy, if you don't have a self-awareness or that conversation with yourself, then it can destroy you. And evidently it started to do that with myself up until I sought help and tried to change myself, made a conscious effort to change myself through education and, let's say, with CrossFit and other things. So, but yeah, diabetics can be destructive. Having diabetes can be destructive. It is tiring. You do get burnout. But you have to switch the mind to approach it in a different way. My way was the language that is used out there with some of the organizations is to fight diabetes. Now, in a fight, there's generally a winner and a loser, and most of the time, that loser's probably going to be you. So I tried to change the way that I approached it, and that I'm not fighting this condition, which is a part of me. So I decided to actually have a conversation with it, in a sense, and make friends with it, and work with it and live with it. So how can I work with my condition? And it's actually made this is what transformed it for me. This was the conscious diabetic thing, is to have that internal meditation conversation with you and how you can change and what can change. And life does start to get better after that. It really does.
I think it's almost creating that symbiotic relationship with it. Correct. Because as you said, you can't, how can you fight something that can't be beaten? Because you can't cure it. You can't beat it up and it's gone. It's only going to be there. It's not going to lose strength. It's going to be there the whole time. So as you say, it's that creating that symbiotic relationship with it, and it's a part of me. I have to live with it. We're going to do. I've been dealt with shit hand, so I've got to play it.
I'll use a Marvel character, Venom.
Venom, that's what I was thinking. Symbiotic.
Yeah, but Venom's my favorite character from when I was a kid, and that's what it feels like. And then obviously within the Spider-Man side of things, or within Eddie Brock side of things as well, with Venom, the bad part. But you have a Spider-Man one where he gets him and he uses him, and when he starts to use Venom, he then becomes powerful and stops fighting it and stops doing stops it destroying him. But yeah, you use that as sort of being a superhero for me. For me, it is exactly that. I'm now sort of that vision, or the superhero that I wanted to be when I was a kid, with the condition in a weird way, like being that person who's training, being that healthy person, being that right person, and that's sort of my hope to inspire other people. Really, this is the reason for the CrossFit Games stuff, the reason for doing the book. I'm hoping that it will help not just diabetics, but the families, the friends, because diabetes doesn't just affect that one person, which when you have diabetes, you think it is only you that it affects, but that is far from the truth. It is the family, as I say, it is your wife, husband, whoever, it is your friends. And it's really it can be really destructive, and it has been in my life.
How have you found it with your partner? How is she?
Well, she's from a medical background as well, so she worked in hospitals and other things. But it's an interesting conversation. She would have a lot to say, But yeah, she could see me destroying myself, and it's frustrating, and it does cause a lot of it causes a lot of problems. There's a hidden part of diabetes when you're having a hypo. You're not of sound mind, and it can. I think there was a statistic somewhere. There's like 30% of hypos can be violent episodes as well, and I've had that where I've hit out at her, and done things, and you don't know until you come back around. You're like, what the fuck? And again, it's not on purpose. It's just
No.
Something switches, and I was like, that can't happen.
That's one of the basic things you learn on first aid course as well. If someone's having a hypo, it's they're not going to be themselves.
No, it is. Yeah. You are don't know what the brain's doing. It's trying to protect itself. It's almost like the hungry bear. But it won't. Yeah, for having a hypo again is uncontrollable sometimes. Like there's a part, and this comes through controlling. This part comes through experience and time. It's like you can be a lot of people, diabetics or early diabetics, go there and they just pig out. So you'll have your low blood sugar, you'll open the fridge and everything goes in, like anything and everything. I'd do it with some bad ones, and especially after drinking alcohol, it affects the liver and the output of glucose. So, you have really bad hypos after drinking, and you just eat. But then you've got all the other problems that come with that bad control, because you eat. That's calories, that's extra weight, and if you're not like exercising it off or you're not doing anything, then it's not doing anything there. You're just pigging out. It causes like a potential mental problem as well. And then you've got the rebound of the high blood sugars then, and then more insulin. And then you're on this yo-yo of trying to keep things in under control. So yeah, there's a lot of early diabetics experience that. And then it's getting that under check of how to treat hypos and what to do with them.
So do you know when one's coming on?
Yeah, well, I lost my hypo awareness a few years back. So there was just one incident where I just woke up in a pool of blood, and I was like, "What's going on here?" And I smashed my head on the door handle. And that was like, "Oh wow, okay." So then I went to hospital again, and then now I've got where is it? I've got my Dexcom, which links to my phone, and then my wife sees my blood sugar. I've got my pump, which then talks to my Dexcom, which then administers things automatically. So I get alerts now. But generally I can feel it a little bit. And my main go-to now is dextrose. I've got 2.5 kilo bag of dextrose right there. And I know like 25 grams of that in some water, bosh, done. Not many calories, nothing. Like it's not going to affect. I don't have to have biscuits, eat stuff or do stuff. It just goes bang straight in.
Oh, it's instant. It's instant. I've had it with clients before that sort of that have trained too hard, and bang, give them some of that there.
But and especially with the client, especially the effect on like with diet. I found when training as a diabetic is you start off having a lot of hypos when you do training, and then it's almost like relearning what your body can do, especially with things like doing a lot of cardio, rowing, cycling, the air bike and everything. That's going to kill your blood sugar to start with. But do that there's an order you should really train as a diabetic, and it's to do your weights first, or to do your heavy lifting first, then do your cardio stuff after that. Because if you're doing all the muscle stuff first, that's going to dump glucose straight after, and then what you're trying to do is then you'll do your air bike rowing after the dump of glucose, to then that should bring it down a little bit. And then there's the things like after your training, you need to reduce your insulin like 50%, 40% as well, because your sensitivity's gone up. So this is the perfect time to eat as well. Perfect time to eat, perfect time to have protein, perfect time to have any supplements or whatever else you have as well, straight after training. And there's a really good methodology of that. And I learned this from Jackie Moran, who's a great British athlete, great British dietitian. She was the dietitian for a lot of sort of the teen athletes in Great Britain teams, and she's a diabetes nutritionist specialist as well. So she helps me with when I was doing the CrossFit stuff. She was giving me advice on when to exactly consume the protein that I have, how much protein I should have, the benefits of having it. I have creatine, I have leucine. So I've all these specific things to help me as a diabetic, and it does make a difference, especially with the protein. Let's say, like, we have to be careful again not to have too much protein, because that's going to affect our kidneys, and we've got to be super careful about that. So yeah, but the balancing act of not just tanking loads of protein if you're training as a diabetic is really, you've got to be careful not to overload. Because I found as well, if I was overloading on protein, I started to get a little bit fatter as well, because I wasn't using it. So now I do about 110 grams a day, and that's plenty. I like to be sort of strong and leanish. Still got a fat ring, which is the word. Like, it's so hard to get off. So hard to get off as a diabetic.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for a lot of people. Like, food is such a deep psychological issue, like, for a lot of people, and you know, especially if you've got diabetes, it's the added stress of having to manage
control and discipline. I think it'll say it's, God, food. Pizza's my weakness. I'd like, but I treat, like, say, if I know I train hard and do whatever, I can eat whatever I want, but I'll stick to. I do have a routine of eating as well. It's just easy. Like, say, especially if I'm training, I know what's what, and I know if I'm eating certain stuff, and I generally eat to my blood sugar as well. It's one of the things I train 2 times a day. Training in the morning levels out the blood sugar. Training later on levels out the blood sugar. It's, I try to train to everything around my diabetes to keep it in control.
Yeah, it sounds. I think I would definitely struggle for a long while if I was to have to deal with that, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll stop talking about me. It's, again, we were talking about each other, but yeah, that's sort of the main highlights, and I talk more in depth about diabetes on my Conscious Diabetic podcast. So if you want to hear more, then go over there, the Conscious Diabetic, and then you'll hear me talking about all sorts of diabetes related items. Now, in terms of your journey, like I say, you started, how old are you?
30.
Oh God, young. So you started training about 10 years ago then?
Properly, I started training a little bit longer than that. I started training around about, I guess 15 years ago, like training myself. I became a coach just over 10 years ago. I've been on this journey for a while now. It's just what I do for a full-time job. I've done it for the past 8 years, working full-time in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
There was a point during lockdown. I'll try and keep out of the lockdown talk, because I think we're all sick of talking about lockdown now. But during lockdown, I had to go and get another job as a mechanic. So I was a mechanic down the docks for a year or so, whilst obviously all the gyms were closed, just to make ends meet. But now I'm back to it again. I've been fully self-employed again for another year and a bit now. So this is my passion. This is what I've been doing. This is what I can see myself doing for a very long while.
Which box are you at, or do you train at?
CrossFit Thurrock. So it's a relatively new box. So it's only opened in January. So I worked for a company called Supreme Being. So it was a strength and conditioning CrossFit-esque methodology without the CrossFit title as such. And the owner of the box, Royce, he decided to make the jump and open up a CrossFit gym, or rebrand the name. He's always been into CrossFit, and he's wanted to do it for a while, and he decided that now was the time. It was the right opportunity to do it. The right facility came up. Like, fantastic for me. It's about a 5-minute drive from my house, which is great. Right. And so at the time, I was still running my wheelchair weightlifting club, or the beginnings of the adaptive CrossFit classes, like a village hall. But it wasn't super cool. It was just like a basic hall, like you might have like a birthday party or whatever. So he opened up that. He took on took on this facility, and then now I'm a CrossFit coach, so I coach CrossFit there. And,
Okay.
But also off the backs of that as well, I sort of run my company within there as well.
Yeah.
And so I've got a lot of work to do. It's very new, and it's just about creating awareness now and spreading the message and putting in the hours.
And in terms of the adaptive classes that you do teach, or the adaptive members do teach, so you've got wheelchair users, you've got you go through the list of who you've got, like say.
Yeah, so currently people that come to my class, I've got predominantly CP, so cerebral palsy, varying levels. So obviously you get different types of CP. You get some that affects lower half, upper half, just one side. So within my class, I've got sort of almost one of each type of CP that you can get. I've got one guy that had meningitis. It affected his ability to walk, talk, balance, etc. I've got a new guy starting actually this Monday, young lad, 20, had a stroke at 20 years old. He's 27 now. Yeah, he had a stroke and an aneurysm. So he's coming along. I've got another person that's got rheumatoid arthritis, quite severe, wheelchair user. So it's predominantly neurological, physical disabilities. I'm looking at branching out to like learning disabilities as well. So in regards to like autism and Asperger's and stuff like that. But I think that's going to take a little bit more planning. There's how that's going to look.
There's a way to. My brother has autism on the range, so there's definitely a way of approaching that.
Oh, so I've got a client with autism, and I know exactly how to. I don't want to use the term deal with him, but I know exactly how to structure his sessions. But his sessions are very ad lib. It's like almost we'll go into the gym, right? Let's warm up. We'll jump on a bit of equipment, and then it's like I'm sort of searching for what's going to spark him on that day, because every day is very different. So I might grab a wall ball and go, how many times do you reckon you could hit that target? And it might be something as silly as that. And then once I've got him, I'm looking at what he's looking at next, and I'm sort of taking him around. As long as we're moving, that's the thing. So I need to figure out how I can structure that a little bit more in a group environment. Do I need assistant coaches? Do I need them to bring their carers with them? I don't know. I don't know how that's going to look yet, but predominantly physical disabilities I'm dealing with at the moment.
And when you're planning your sessions, is it one-on-one sessions that you're doing with most of your clients, or is it?
So the group sessions at the moment, I'm doing one a week. It's a case of I've got to build them up. There's no point me having 3 or 4 sessions a week if I've only got sort of like 10 attendees, because it'll spread too thin. So at the moment, I do one group session a week. Other than that, it's one-to-ones. Yeah, all my guys is one-to-ones. I see sometimes 2-3 times a week, and then some of them come to the class as well. I mean, the one-to-ones I follow, it's a bit more specific to their impairment. So like what their imbalances are, what their goals are, etc. But in the classes, it's a bit more looser. And some of the stuff I'm trying to teach in the class is not just awareness about their own training, but awareness about others training around them, because I'm only one person. I can't have eyes on everyone at all times. So it's sort of teaching them awareness around other people. And how to, like, for example, how to spot if I put people in pairs, how do you spot your pair? Like, it's super important. I've got everyone sort of helping within the class. And I think in doing so, it's creating more awareness about themselves. If they're able to see other people doing it, it's creating more awareness about how they're doing things.
It gives them that confidence as well. I think, like say, you're part of a team, because having any condition, you isolate yourself from the world. You do think you're on your own. You do but once you're in, let's say, it's this energy of, let's say, you go to the gym, you generally on your own, or you're with someone, but you go to the CrossFit, you go to sort of box, and the energy is completely different. And it is, like say, everything breaks down, and you're with a group of people, you're doing the same stuff, you're all on the same journey, or you've all been on the same journey. That's what I love about it. So in terms of progress with your clients, have there been some really good success? Like I know everyone's successful in a sense, but has there been some standout?
Yeah, definitely.
This really has been beneficial to them. And again, that gives you that reward.
So because this is what I'm doing is quite new. So at the moment, we're looking at getting a lot of government funding for some of the projects we're looking at running. So we are looking at measuring a bit more scientifically. So we're investing in some software in regards to like range of motion, so we can start to track people's range of motion. Because at the moment I've been doing it, but very much it's been quite loose and just having fun with it really, but now I want to get a bit more serious. I want to start actually tracking people's progress, like data. I want forms. I want to be able to go to the council and go, this is what I've done, this is how I've helped these people, I want to replicate this. So for example, I'll use one of my guys that comes to my class. His name's Callum. He's got CP, so he started training with me two years ago, I believe, just under 2 years ago, I think it is now. And it's not just him physically getting stronger, like in range of motion within his joints. It's, from what I've seen with him, it's confidence. His confidence has grown. When I first sat down with him to do like our sort of onboarding, his dad came with him, and his dad was speaking a lot for him. I always try and make a big effort to speak to the client and not the person with the client, because I feel like they're a person. They're not like an object.
They're not a spare part. They're not a spare part that's just there to observe.
And I think that was one of the conversations I did have with his dad at first. And at the end of the session, it's the second session, I said to Dad, look, great kid, really want to work with him. I think he's got a lot of potential. One thing I'm going to probably say, I don't know if this is going to annoy you, but you do talk a lot for him. You talk a lot for him. I think it's about time you sort of took that step back and let him take leading conversations. And I feel like that was quite hard for him to hear, because Callum actually told me, he was like, I think you pissed my dad off. I was like, why? He went, you said that. But then a few weeks later, his dad went, no, do you know what? I think he was right. I think that was the thing that needed to be done. Yeah, because I've got the bollocks to say it, and I think it's important. I'm happy to call people out if I feel like it's going to improve them. I'm not going to slag someone off.
Yeah, as a coach, you're not doing it out of shut the hell up, or it's actually to let the client grow and to let him have he has his own voice. Just because he's disabled, just because he has a disability, doesn't mean his voice is worth any less. I don't think his dad was trying to be horrible in talking for him, but he's cared for him since he was a small boy, and he's done a lot for him. So there was good intentions in now, but in doing so, them good intentions were detrimental to his development as a person. Yeah. And I'm sure that made the dynamic of the father-son relationship even better as well at some point. Yeah, so
even now, down to coming back to the CrossFit Open in a second, but anyway, so Callum's been training with me. We're just sitting. So I've got a garage attached to my house that I turned into a gym during lockdown. So we trained in there. We just talk crap all the time. We're trained. I
think I saw the videos. I've got some
videos on there of me training in the garage, which I'm not there. I do use the garage for a couple clients now. That's a little bit uncomfortable training in a bigger space. But I don't really use that garage anymore. But we'd just hang out. We'd train. We'd talk crap. We'd talk about goals, what he wants to do and stuff like that. And so, over time, I just saw this person grow and develop. Now he's currently volunteering in a school, a local SEN school, so special education needs school in the area. So, which was one of his goals. He wanted to work in schools. But he felt he was limited due to his disabilities in a wheelchair. Now he works in a school. So the next step is what we're looking at doing. He wants to become a PT. I teach PT courses as well. So getting him onto the PT course, getting him the funding for that. And he's going to be a personal trainer. So for me, he's sort of like at that 5% of a success story, but that 5%, that growth that he's made is huge.
Yeah.
One of the things...
that could impact on so many other people as well. So you've started a chain reaction. Yeah,
and that's been my goal since I started Up Movement, was to not only create an inclusive space to train for individuals, but also career opportunities. I'd love to create career opportunities within Alt Movement. So that's why I created the brand as opposed to myself, because I knew the brand could grow more than myself. So in doing so, if I can create enough classes and I can pluck someone like Callum from the class and say, right, I'm going to put you on this mentorship, so to speak, go and do a personal training course, do this, that, and the other. Right, come and assist me in some of my classes. Right, and okay, now I want you to run a class, run your own class. And that would be the sort of filtration system. I'd love to see that circle of like people come in, train, they go, and if they want to have a career in fitness, do your course, do your certs, get some education, straight back into the system. You're helping other people, and I think that's such a beautiful, thankful circle. If I can create that just right.
Cool.
One of the big moments for me was for Callum. So he's whenever his parents dropped him off. So I'm happy to talk to the person or the dad. I'm happy to, wherever it needs to be done, I'm happy to have them hard conversations. So Callum, he told his dad pretty much F off. He told his dad to F off. He didn't want him to watch him training. Obviously, his dad's super proud of him. He wanted to watch him compete in the Open.
Okay.
So his dad dropped him off on the first one. I said to Callum, why didn't your dad stay? He went, I told him to leave. I went, why did you tell him to leave? He said, I don't want him to watch me train. It's embarrassing. I went, let's have a chat, Callum. I went, your dad's proud of you. I said, look at it from his point of view. Your dad has raised you from a small boy. He's concerned, obviously, because you've got a disability already, that you're not going to maybe have the same opportunities that everyone else would have, whether that's career, whether that's social circles, whether that's relationships. He's seen you now grow from this person to this person, and he wants to celebrate that. He wants to come and watch you compete in a gym against all these other people. I think you're quite selfish in what you said to him. I think you should invite him along to the next one.
Yeah.
He seemed a bit pissed off at that point. So he left anyway. So he comes and trains me on a one-to-one session. He went, thank you for the other day. I went, what was that? He went, thank you for talking to me about that. I've invited my dad to come and watch me on the next one. And I'll tell you what, mate, it was so cool to see that little transformation inside Callum's head as well. And also on the night to see his dad there, I sort of glanced up at him a few times, but you could just see how proud he was that his son is now achieving, is excelling, is doing some really cool shit. You know, you've been in a CrossFit gym, mate. Like it's awesome. Like it's such a cool environment. When that workout's done, everyone's buzzing, everyone's high-fiving, everyone's cheering. Yeah. And I just felt that's a real moment of growth that Callum experienced at that point where he's invited his dad to come along and he's swallowed that ego that he had. So yeah, definitely he's my success story currently. I've got a couple of others, but they're sort of still in their early stages at the moment.
Cool. We have been on over an hour, and it's Sunday. I do have other things to do. So that's cool, dude. I think, and we're going to finish off on that success story because I think that was really a cool way to finish. So first off, we'll thank each other. So thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do this again in a few months because I'd like to follow the success stories and progress. And it's always good to catch up again.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Where can everyone find you?
So all my stuff's on Instagram, Alternative Movement or Alt Movement. YouTube as well. So I've got a YouTube channel. You'll find that'll be under my actual name, which is Craig Graham. Yeah, that's it. That's cool. Where you'll find me, Instagram. And same for yourself. Same for yourself and my listeners, please.
Yeah. I am the Conscious Diabetic on everything, or Conscious Diabetic, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And Spotify and everywhere else. So that's where you'll find me, and consciousdiabetic.com. Yeah, mainly Instagram and other bits and bobs, but yeah, you'll find me there.
For more information about being a conscious diabetic, check out consciousdiabetic.com. Check out our Conscious Diabetic socials on Instagram and Facebook at Conscious Diabetic. Are you a conscious diabetic? Leave us your reviews and feedback.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Big love. Love. From all of us.